Alrighty then.
With that, hello everybody. Welcome to Dissonant Waves. My name is Dominic. Ritz is not here, but Trix is.
Yes, hi, hello.
And this is episode 143 of Dissonant Waves. We have quite a bit to cover this week. It's a full episode. Ritz isn't
Yes,
here,
we do.
and we're not making it a mini-sode because we've done a lot of those recently. Let's do something that's a full episode. This week, we've
Yeah.
got the Mars Volta's Amputecture. We've got Andrew WK's You're Not Alone. We've got Spanish love songs No Joy and Hot Mulligan's Why When I Watch. Trix, what would you like to talk about
And
first? Or what do you want to say?
how about we talk about the thing we both didn't listen to this week, I guess, which was we were going to talk about Green Day for a minute.
Oh, were we going to talk about Green Day for a minute?
Yeah, I thought so.
I completely misunderstood what you said about that then.
Sorry about that.
I thought you meant we were going to do that in October during our other thing.
No, I was thinking about adding it on this week, just for shits and giggles.
Did you listen to it?
Yeah, I did.
I did not listen to it. I apologize.
It's all right. Just give a listen to the Basket Case demo when you get the chance.
Yeah, so the Dookie 4-track demos came out.
Yep. And Basket Case is a completely different song. Whole
Yeah.
other set of lyrics, but still the same rhythm.
Is it better or worse, do you think?
So, anyways, why don't we talk? The final version is definitely better,
Okay. Now,
but
for the
it's
third
just
time.
like really interesting to see what it could have been.
Fair enough. Now, for the fourth time, what are we going to say? What's next?
How about we do the one that I have kind of the least to talk about, and that is Hot Mulligan.
Yes, Hot Mulligan's. Why would I watch? Yeah,
Yes.
once I realized that this album reminded me of a lot of emo we've listened to in a general way, and then I realized it just sounds like a little bit like Streetcar. Not exactly, or If You Know For a Friend, I mean, their song Streetcar specifically, but not exactly. But enough for me to be like, okay,
Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking of. I see. All right. It's a solid album, but like, it doesn't do anything special.
No, it's as I was listening to it, I'm like, this is kind of like an emo spin on just 2000s butt rock.
Yeah, definitely hit the
Like I was
2000s.
getting Nickelback vibes.
Uh, I I can kind of see that. I feel like that's a little bit of a stretch, but I definitely did feel the 2000s coming in strong.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's even kind of an element of like it's very clear when they get to the sad depressing song that's meant to be more of a like the acoustic ballad, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that was like always a staple of those like 2000s albums. It's like we got to have the one really sad song that people cry and feel things.
Yeah. The ballad's kind of been a staple since the 80s, although it was more of the power ballad in the 80s.
Yeah, I guess this feels a little bit different in that it just feels a little bit like oh, very clearly distinctly put here, and then we move on to something else.
Yeah.
But they don't always start that way. In fact, the first song shouldn't have a leg hole, but I do. It kind of has a more of a folky feel, and then it kind of opens up into
Definitely.
that
Yeah.
emo-ness. But it starts somewhere else, which is cool. And then as it kind of goes
Um,
on, go ahead.
I was gonna say Zoo did it better.
Yes, Zoo did better. We can run club shout out. But as it
Yeah.
went on, it has a lot of twinkling guitars, a lot of third wave pop punk emo sounds, passionate vocals,
Very
of
much so.
course. You can kind of mosh to it. It's a good party album in some ways. You know,
I could see
if you're
myself
feeling
throwing like a cock party on it something.
yeah, like if you're feeling nostalgic for the 2000s and that scene, and you like kind of all that vibe of thing, this is probably in your ballpark. Like it's this more than anything else I think we've really listened to recently is like this goes for that crowd more than anything.
Definitely.
Like No Shoes in the Coffee Shop, definitely like I have it down in my notes. This sounds like a song from 10 years ago, which I guess that would make me feel a little bit more of like it was like an indie song of the 2010s, but even then, that's kind of everything about this album, that it feels like a look back. It feels nostalgic in a way that is not fun as much as it is kind of like homaging or just being like, look at that, wasn't that fun? Look at all these sounds that have gone by and just focus on this.
And maybe that's why I would watch. That might have been the dumbest joke I have told on this podcast. Well, maybe my Paul McCartney joke is dumber, but I love that joke.
I was gonna say, did you know that Paul McCartney was in a band before the Beatles?
It's just such like a perfect joke in my opinion. Like it sets up the idea that I have no idea who the fuck Paul McCartney is outside of Wings.
I know. Yes, I said the Beatles.
Like how do I not know about the? How do I not know about the Beatles?
If it makes you feel any better, my roommate didn't know who Cher was.
Fucking God.
Cher is, I should say. She's not dead.
Yeah. Take away his gay card, perhaps? I kid.
Husband literally blasts Believe like all the time. It's kind of impossible to believe.
Yeah.
But let's not get too far from Hot Mulligan, because I want to take a Hot Mulligan and kind of finish off this putt before we move on.
Okay, you had me with the Hot Mulligan part, but then you kind of just threw in the crowbar. It wasn't quite good enough. Sorry.
Yeah, there are some
Hot Mulligan.
Let me take it again. Hot take. This album is not my favorite this week. Ha!
Yeah, it's not my favorite this week either.
It really just feels like it does different things. There are different sounds, but it feels still like a one note thing. Like they're doing that thing, and I can see why they're popular.
I just wasn't feeling that thing this week.
Yeah, I can see why they're popular. I can see why they would tour with Spanish love songs in the Wonder Years and all that stuff. They definitely fit in. I think with Spanish love songs too, there's a passion that they share, and there's maybe some like vibes of other stuff I hear. I can like, okay, yeah. Passionate vocals only get you so far if the songs aren't satisfying, or if it's just like a similar vibe over and over and over again.
Yeah, it's like how I can only take like one Red Hot Chili Peppers song because Anthony Kiedis just keeps saying California, California, California.
That's another joke you make here and there.
It is. I have my repertoire.
And apparently so does Hot Mulligan. They know their sounds and they know what to play.
Maybe we're kindred spirits.
Kindred spirits that don't look fondly upon each other, perhaps.
Perhaps.
I don't know. Anything else?
It's not that I dislike them. It's just I'm not feeling them this week.
You know, I understand that.
That could potentially change.
I had a mini arc with this album. I will say, in that the first time I listened to it, I was not in a mood to feel it at all. And then I listened to it again. I'm like, you know, there's some stuff here. This is interesting. And then I heard it again, and I'm like, oh, it really is just all third wave look back and kind of not much else. It was kind of like a, Does that make sense?
That about sums it up. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. So should we get to favorites or least favorites?
I mean, sure. What do you have on the docket for that?
Blender.
I was gonna say I don't know if there really is much to say on favorites or least favorites. It's kind of a blender for me as well. I think John the Rock Cena, Can You Smell What the Undertaker is probably one of the best songs, but it's on an album where there's so much the sameness happening that it gets kind of drowned out by like the other 10 songs that are like, oh yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So it's a good one, but even the goodness can't overcome everything else, which is unfortunate, but it's not a bad album.
It's not horrible, but it's not incredible.
However, there is an album that in some ways I would say is a little bit similar in that it has a thing it's going for, but I think it performs it a lot better and ends up being the better album for it. Let's flip on over to Spanish love songs here with No Joy.
Can I drop my hot take?
Sure.
I fucking love this album.
This album's really fucking good.
It's like, so good.
like it's kind of the same thing in that all the songs kind of blend together, and it's a little bit of a blunder, but in like the best way possible, and that everything is really solid.
Yeah, it's it feels like just different variation. This is gonna sound batshit insane, but it makes sense in my head. It's like different tonal variations, but still on the same wavelength as just remixing The Cure's "It's Friday, I'm in Love,"
That's an interesting take. Okay.
and I mean that in like the best way possible. I got a lot of The Cure vibe.
There was definitely some 80s stuff. There was definitely some synth. I got, well, I got Kali Masi vibes. I can see why Kali Masi toured with them in Europe and stuff. And by way of getting Kali Masi vibes, I also got a fair amount of Against Me vibes in the vocals.
Yeah,
Like there's some Laura Jane Grace in that, and like the timbre, kind of the how projected it sounds. Some of the notes feel like they hit similar ways.
I could definitely see that.
And so I know I like the way those vocals sound. I like the how not airy or breathy. That's not the right word I want to use, but there's a brightness to it that is very unique and interesting that I've noticed now in a couple different artists. That's like, okay, there's a way to kind of tackle some songs that are sometimes more depressing or more dark, but with like a really bright tone that makes you feel confident and like there's someone at the helm of this ship steering it. And that's kind of what the singer does
Yeah,
here.
and the whole theme of the album kind of is, at least I got, is just living out of spite.
Living out of spite, kind of dealing with illness and sickness and just kind of post pandemicness, I feel like. Or even just
Yeah,
pandemicness. Like every song feels like there's
the
someone,
pandemic fundamentally changed music.
it feels like every song there's someone dying or in an accident or being sick in a way. Or if it's not that, it's the apocalypse.
Yeah,
Like the first song, Lifers, there's a car crash that's pretty visceral toward the end. But even like but
yep.
there's like a catharsis in the vocals that makes it like you feel ready for it. Like it's like it hits you, and like the way it's presented really hits you with like, "Oh, I asked if you were fine, and you looked at me with the whole like your head wide open. You said you were fine, but you were lying," kind of thing. The way it's just presented and sung, it's just like, oh, that really fucking hits in a good way.
Oh yeah.
Um, and it's like, there's just little moments you kind of just hear, like in Pendulum, where it's like everything in its place, a sentimental heartache, or like you kind of imagine like while some preacher calls you dangerous, and it's like you're living a queer life. You definitely know that kind of thing happening. So it's just casual things to really vibe with as you go.
Definitely.
I remember Ritz was calling out the McDonald's parking lot line when we did Bull Believer or Wednesday Rat Saw
Yeah.
God. But I don't know. There's an interesting marriage of like 80s. The genre they were throwing around was new wave, and I don't know if I would go that far. But definitely 80s
No,
goth,
I would
emo.
gothy new wave. It's riding the line. I can see that.
But it does go the emo route in the end.
It does.
I don't know if that's just the way the vocalist kind of just makes it go with the timbre and everything, or if that's kind of their direction anyway. Because I could see it definitely going the more gothy, new wavy thing, but that vocalist just really sells it.
Oh yeah.
And you know me, I like saxophone, I like horns. So anytime you have like the sax casually thrown into, I pay attention, I listen. And there's sax all over this album,
Good
and
sax.
yeah, Marvel even has the line "staying alive out of spite." So I think you're onto something here.
Yes.
But there are a few albums like I know you and Ritz really feel strongly about the Whaler, and I agree the Whaler is probably one of the best things we listened to this year. But there are a few albums where I'm like, this should be a classic. This should be something that people point to, and I
Yeah,
felt that with
I feel
this.
yeah.
Like this is
I
a
definitely feel you there.
this is a solid album. God, just looking at all the songs, like it does the thing where most of the songs are about 3 some minutes long, and at the end they kind of get a little longer, but that doesn't really bother me here because the songs are uniformly just good.
Yeah. I'm gonna do some more goth comparisons just because it's for analogies.
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, if Home is Where is The Cure, then I would say that Spanish love songs will probably end up being like an Echo and the Bunnymen,
Okay, that's a pull. I like that pull.
where like everybody kind of knows The Cure or is at least familiar with them. Whereas like you need to kind of look more into the goth genre to know about Echo and the Bunnymen. So I think that'll be how it'll be with Home is Where and Hot Mulligan, or not Hot Mulligan, Spanish
Spanish
love
love song.
songs.
I'm curious. Let's look at Spotify real quick here. I would love to know who has more listeners.
Oh, definitely The Cure.
No. Home is Where or Spanish love songs.
Okay, fair.
So Home is Where on
I
Spotify
I feel
has,
like Home is Where is.
yeah.
I was just gonna say I feel like Home is Where is gonna be like more of like the monumental, like looking back, like Neutral Milk Hotel of the genre, kind of. I guess.
Home is Where has 60,000 listeners a month average. Spanish love songs has
I'm on the edge of my
168,000.
seat. Oh
So
wow,
beating it by
more.
about 100,000 listeners on average.
I did not realize that.
And like Spanish Love Songs has also been around for a minute. They're kind of a fourth wave band, or at least they started in the fourth wave, kind of like Kalimasi, and then kind of really developed as we kind of went into the fifth wave.
Definitely.
So there's like there's a I've noticed a weird kinship, right? Like there's a certain like there's a scene. There's different layers of the scene where some bands acknowledge each other and listen to each other, it seems, and some listen to others, and some are kind of included in certain scenes, some aren't, and it's all kind of a nebulous, long weaving web. And I see like, this is the side that is Spanish love songs, is Hot Mulligan, are those bands that maybe have a little more radio play that are more likely to tour with the Wonder Years. But
Yeah.
they'll call out, they'll pay homage, they'll mention our Carly Cosgrove here and there.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if they're as deep as listening to Bigger Boot or Stomach Book or even Home is Where necessarily, but there's that dividing line. I don't know what the dividing line really turns out to be in the end. But there are some of the bands that really seem to be operating at a different level, whether it's because they're a little bit older and have a little bit more access to like the legacy acts, or if it's from
Yeah.
just they get a little more attention, a little more play, so they can I don't know, not have to worry as much about the DIY scene.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's interesting. I wonder how bands now will react to bands that are coming up in the next couple of years. Like,
Definitely, that's the
Will Home is Where be shepherding a band that comes around in 2026,
perhaps we don't know.
or will Home is Where kind of stick to the era that they're in now? I'm curious. Like, I think knowing Brandick McDonald a little bit, or at least knowing her persona, she would be a little bit more attuned to keeping up and kind of charting things out. But what would the touring look like, right?
Yeah.
Like we'll talk about it a little bit later. We'll talk about actually not this episode, but in a couple episodes from now. I was doing some research for things we'll talk about. I'll announce at the end of the show. But seeing who tours with who when and kind of the context of all that is fairly interesting historically, right? Like for like to just give an example that I was looking into, like who was Radiohead touring with in 2001? Who was Muse touring with in 2008? Right?
Yeah.
Like, what were the level of those bands and their success versus what those bands that we're talking about are having? And, when were
Yeah.
they founded? Where are they from? Seeing how all that relates to a band as accessible and as famous at that point as Muse or Radiohead.
Yeah, that would definitely be an interesting episode.
But here, right now, Spanish Love Songs was just in Australia. They're touring the world. And Hot Mulligan, I believe, was just in Australia as well as part of the tour. They're on the same tour.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't see Home is Where necessarily going to Australia anytime soon, though. I'm sure they would love that. I don't see maybe Origami Angel. I mean, Origami Angel is going to Japan, so that's something.
How incredible would it be if when Home is Where goes to Australia, Brandon McDonald picks up the didgeridoo?
I feel like that'd be way too stereotypical to work.
I think it could work. I think it could work.
I would just do what song is it? Scientific Class? No, it's sea membrane. Whether the harmonica, the intro after L. Ron Hubbard was way cool.
Yeah. Long distance conjoined twins.
Well, just because I couldn't think of the title, but yeah, just doing that with the didgeridoo and just committing to the bit for a whole song.
Yeah. Honestly, at some point, it's going to be funny that I'm going to be the first one to get didgeridoo on the podcast. At least I think.
Oh,
Probably
is this
not. Now that I
confirmed?
think about it. Yeah, no, I don't think so. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure Ritz has put something on with didgeridoo. Now that I think about it, but I need to do Bob Culbertson's Hemispheres. It's him playing the Chapman stick and the didgeridoo at the same time.
Spanish love songs.
Spanish love songs.
I'm curious about the name because they definitely are not Spanish love songs, but they do sound quite
Yeah,
good.
that poor old lady.
The old lady who went to the Australian concert expecting Spanish love songs, but she was disappointed they weren't even singing in Spanish.
Yeah.
I'm curious how this band does live. I'm sure Rich could elucidate on that a little bit. But
Yeah.
with a voice that powerful, how does it hold up over time?
Definitely. Like I feel like there's got to be a presence in the room.
A presence in the room, but can you sustain that kind of voice for 45 minutes, an hour? I feel like that's a lot to ask,
I actually
especially.
can kind of weigh in on this.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of like stage shows and projecting, and you can definitely the voice can go for hours. Like it's a skill you have to train, yes, but if with proper training, you could speak. I could speak all day if I had to.
Fair enough. Okay. Okay. Did you speak in like a really presentation type of voice?
Well, yes, I could. And as you see here, uh, let's go back to Spanish love songs. I bailed out of that bit halfway through.
I appreciate you for trying, though.
Well, while we're on this kind of weird tangent, I'm going to take a shot of tequila.
Tequila! Papa! I'm curious if anyone in
It's
the
actually
band is
pretty
even
good.
Spanish.
Some
And
Spanish names are tricky.
Meredith Van Wert, Dylan Slocum, Ruben Duarte. That one, I don't know. Nothing really jumps out at me.
Ruben.
I could be wrong, but again, I wonder how they came upon this name.
Maybe one of them has like a maternal Spanish figure or something.
Maybe, or they just really like Spanish love songs. They're like, hey, we're Spanish love songs. It's kind of a fun thing to say.
Yeah, it is.
It was mixed by Carlos de la Garza, who did work for Paramore and M83, so that's something. Yeah, this is a great album. Don't really have a ton else to say.
No,
Will be a highlight
it's
for
a
me
great
of the
album.
year. We will see if it ends up being better than Origami Angel Home Is Where stuff. I don't know if it'll be that high up there, but it'll be up there.
Definitely.
Favorites, least favorites?
Yeah. Let me pull up the track list.
I'll go first since you're doing that. I really like Haunted. I'm Gonna Miss Everything is a really interesting song that kind of puts you in the mindset of someone who just got out of an accident and you're kind of being attended to by the EMTs.
Yep.
Re-emerging Signs of the Apocalypse is a fantastic ending, and it really just starts really well too. Lifers is a great opener. You know, most of these songs are just all of them are really fantastic. I have no least favorites.
I don't either. Favorites for me, Lifers, Cleanup Crew, Rapture Chaser, and Reemerging Sign of the Apocalypse. Just bangers.
No one else's bangers.
Parties.
I was gonna say the Mars Volta.
Fair.
Into some other Spanish love songs of a sort. Get their album.
I'm going to continue on with my vibes trend, as I've been saying. This feels like if Rush continued on to the 2000s and tried to have their own style.
I agree. I think Amputecture, just the Mars Volta as a whole, like this is a band that I listen to them and I'm still like, how the fuck do you come up with that?
Yeah.
Like Tetragrammaton alone is just an odyssey.
It is.
There's so many parts. There's so many things that kind of just sandwich into each other, and it loops back around, and it just does all these things, and it's like, how do you just do that?
Yes. How do you lay upon perfection with a single pen stroke?
You know who the lead guitarist on this album is?
I do not off the top of my head.
It was a special guest, well, kind of a guest, not really a part of the band, but kind of a part of the band, John Frusciante.
Ah, that's why they were good.
Flea has also, I think, played for Mars Volta a little bit, but John Frusciante was here and it was around for, I think, a number of albums. And we just did another. It was Danny Elfman, I think, that had Flea on it solo,
Yeah.
or was it Frusciante? I think it might have been Flea. I thought that was a fun little connection. Red Hot Chili Peppers are just everywhere.
Yeah. They're like herpes. You can't get rid of them.
He also did rhythm guitar. Interesting. Kind of whatever they needed him to do. But no, this is a really interesting album. It starts off pretty drony and like atmospheric with Vicarious Atonement, which is its own 7-minute kind of tone piece. And then we flip into Tetragrammaton, which is like I said, a 16, almost 17-minute odyssey of just parts and sounds and cinematicness just coming together, coming apart, coming together. And then as you do, you bring some dynamic into that by then putting a shorter song, Vermicide. That's a 4-minute track. That's the shortest one here. And you get back and you rank it back up with Amputecture, which is another just fantastic long song. Like this band is really fucking good at doing long songs.
Oh yeah.
And again, you kind of go a little bit softer. You go a little bit somewhere else with Asios Magdalena. Viscera Eyes also kind of has a chiller thing going on. Then you get to hit the Baphomets, which is another 12-minute, which ends in a fucking fantastic drum solo piece.
Yeah.
And then
Definitely.
just one last song, El Cervo Vulnerado, something like that. I'm not very good at Spanish. I apologize. But this is an album that, like, reading the lyrics, it's like, okay, they're doing some imagery, they're doing some like religious commentary, but it's an album that's like, God, either these lyrics are like super thought out or are just kind of nonsense but going on a theme.
Yeah.
But I kind of chose this because I was reminded of Muse in a way. Like Muse and this kind of feel kinship because this is all 2006. This is the same time as Black Holes and Revelations. Muse kind of had a little bit of a Spanish influence. A lot of falsettos. Funnily enough, Storm Thorgerson did the album art for this album, but it was rejected in favor of something else.
That's interesting.
So, kind of, and also, I believe was yes, mixed by Rich Costi, who is the producer of Muse's albums.
Interesting.
But I'm curious. I know when I brought up Mars Volta before, you and Ritz both seem to have a knowledge of them. I'm curious what your history with the Mars Volta is.
I'm just familiar with them. Like I existed in guitar spaces a lot on YouTube in 2018 to 2021, and I would just watch like a lot of content, and like I'd see a lot of Mars Volta riffs pop up and like interesting, and so like I knew of them. I knew like some of their more technical riffs.
After listening to an album,
that's about it.
After listening to an album, how's that changed?
I don't know if I'm going to come back to them a lot, but I'll put them on occasionally.
Like how, as a guitarist, as a bassist, when you listen to this kind of thing, how do you think about it? How do you react?
Well, I honestly mostly just kind of analyze counterpoint between the bass and the guitar, and that's what got me to understanding that this is very just Rush like, and then also the singer just coming in with those screams. But yeah, I just kind of, and like as I listen to riffs, I kind of like play them in the fretboard on my head.
Sure.
So like I'm trying to like, but yeah, there's a lot going on when I listen to music.
Do you think they are more, like, is this more technically complex than what Rush was able to do? Is that because of the way technology has evolved? Or do you need Rush to get here?
you need Rush to get here.
Like, is this kind of a thing where Rush walked so they could run? Could Rush do this?
Rush could not do this. Neil Peart is dead.
Well, you know what I mean.
And I don't think they could have sustained that sustained their level of playing into the 2000s from the 70s.
Is there a point where a band just has to not do the thing that they've been doing and play like they used to play?
Yes, anything after Rush's Power or Hold Your Fire, in my opinion.
I mean, that's Rush, right? But are there members of the band that are in their 60s or 70s that can still pull it off, do you think?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Paul Gilbert is in his 60s for some reason. And he's still like one of like the most technical shredders. I'm gonna check that because I think he's like older than you'd think. You don't know Paul Gilbert. I don't think he's a very like technical soloist.
No.
Up there with like Joe Satriani.
I've heard of Joe Satriani. I've heard of Joe Bonamassa.
Or like a Steve Vai type even.
I have heard of Steve Vai, Hugh Devin Townsend.
Yes. But I want to say Paul Gilbert is in his 60s, and he's still fucking shreds. He's 56. He's close.
Close enough. I remember I started listening to the Mars Volta out of just curiosity because I had heard there's a side project that I believe the drummer, at least the drummer at the time, and Zach De La Rocha did called One Day as a Lion. And I really liked that EP that they did. And so I had that name in my head, the Mars Volta. So I always was curious about it, and then at some point I'm like, let's check it out. And it was John Theodore. He left after this album. One Day as a Lion happened. Their EP came out in 2008. And then he now works for Queens of the Stone Age. Funny how that works.
Funny how that works.
One Day as a Lion EP was fantastic. And so kind of going back and listening to this, I was kind of just blown away by how fantastic. Like, this is the album I started with. And it's like, holy shit, there's so much going on. How is nobody talking about this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it kind of falls in with, like, you don't hear people talking about Dream Theater or Opeth because, like, it's nerd metal.
Is this metal?
They're just classified as progressive metal.
Is this prog rock more, or is it kind of just bridging the gap now?
Kind of bridging the gap, I'd say. This is more listenable to me than like a Dream Theater. I can't stand Dream Theater.
I mean, this is something that debuted at number 9 in the Billboard charts, so it definitely had play.
Yeah,
I know that Mars Volta in general was quite a band's band. You know, you kind of heard about like Metallica and all them commenting on them, be like, "Oh shit, they're really good." But they were around for a while. They broke up. They got back together.
I'm definitely gonna have to listen to some of their other albums.
I've listened to things like Bedlam and Goliath, Octahedron, Nocturnicate. I've not listened to the earlier stuff, which I understand to be like the best stuff.
All right.
Like, this is also a band that kind of came out of At the Drive-In, which is kind of a really famous post-hardcore band from the 90s.
Yeah.
There's some stuff to investigate there, because they were around, they broke up, they kind of came back a couple times, and the Mars Voltas kind of existed when they were not doing anything. But what songs did you kind of find yourself being gravitated toward?
Let me pull up the track list. I know it vaguely. I just Baphomet.
Day of the Baphomet.
Yeah, Day of the Baphomet. That's a banging tune. I'm almost there. My cat's being a dick right now.
Kind of sick right now?
A dick. Yeah, Day of the Baphomets. Viscera Eyes really gave me kind of like Rush vibes. Yes. I'm gonna talk to his father and see if he's familiar with it, because it seems like it would be up his alley. And but yeah, I just really kind of enjoyed the whole thing. Tetra Gramma-tonnes is great.
Yeah, I really fell in love with Tetragrammaton, but Like Amputecture, I also really like. Viscer Eyes also really impressed me listening this time around. I love the way Death of Baphomets kind of just has that incredible solo at the end. And then like just other like
Yeah.
this whole album for me just really does it. Even like even like a quieter song like Asilos Magdalena is just fantastic. Just sounds really nice. Yeah, they know what they're doing. It's that thing that Ritz talks about, right? There's contrast. And for 8 tracks, there's
Yes.
definitely not a lack of
It's
like
Ritz's favorite.
material. What was that?
It's Ritz's catchphrase.
Yeah, that's what I hope I said.
Yes.
You're quiet again.
Sorry about that. I was kind of facing away from the mic.
And kind of talking about Ritz talking about when he wishes that he was around when Muse and Radiohead albums were coming out to appreciate them more. I kind of wish I was around enough listening to music when the Mars Volta was in their prime, putting stuff out like this so I could appreciate it more.
Definitely.
Like, this is 2006. And I think it still feels fresh. I think it still feels visceral.
Definitely.
Like, you can listen to some metal and some progressive rock of the 70s, 80s, and it's good, but you can also be like, yeah, there's harder stuff now. I've heard stuff that goes harder than this. And that's probably also true with Mars
Cocaine's
Volta.
not doing it for me. Time to do math.
Yeah. That's probably also true with the Mars Volta. There's probably people that still go harder, but it doesn't feel dated at all. And this is the same
At
year.
some point, we'll have to do some animals as leaders.
Was that?
At some point, we're going to have to do some animals as leaders.
Oh, yeah, sure. I was going to say 2006, same year as Bong Rippers, The Great Barrier Reefer. Porcupine Trees Arriving Somewhere.
Killer album.
The Black Parade. Witch.
Killer album for Witch, not Black Parade as much.
I like the Black Parade quite a bit. But
Black Parade is great, but I like those other ones a lot more.
even albums I would be like, yeah, I think this is really fantastic, like the Black Parade. Listening to something I've come to even later than that, like Amputecture, I'm like, God, this album is like nearly perfect. Like it's 8 tracks, so there's not a lot of like room for filler. All these tracks just really kind of fuck. Just
all killer, no filler.
All killer, no filler, and I think even Ritz said like, yeah, this isn't even their best.
No, I don't think it is.
And that makes me really curious for whether that's the earlier stuff that everyone talks about or if it's something later. Anything else you particularly want to say?
Not really. Good album.
Fantastic.
It's probably going to be my number 2.
It's going to be my number 1. Absolutely. Fucking fantastic. My favorites: Tetragrammaton, Amputecture, Viscer Eyes. No least favorites.
Tetragrammaton, Dissonant Waves. Those are my favorites, and yeah, no least favorites.
The only thing I will say is that sometimes listening to it, it just is so overwhelming and such an experience that it just tires you out.
Definitely.
So, if you need to not be like exhausted by your own listening and have all your energy leave your body like that, maybe approach it more cautiously. But if you're ready for that, fucking go for it. And of course, I'm looking here at Pitchfork's giving it a 3.5. So
Pitchfork.
Yeah, fucking Pitchfork. But that leaves us with one album we'll have to talk about. Yours.
Yes, You're Not Alone by Andrew WK. I did not have time to do the homework that I was going to do, where I was going to talk about how he is a conspiracy theory as well as a musician. So I will promise to tuck that away until we do I Get Wet.
Oh, you want to wait till I Get Wet? Are you going to do I Get Wet anytime soon?
Sometime soon. Maybe I'll pull it out after I do my little games.
Okay. As I say, I realized how much I recognize the I Get Wet cover art. I never realized how much I knew it instinctively.
Yeah, it's such like a it just sticks in your mind. It's a visceral image and it's memorable. From what I understand, he actually hit himself in the nose with a brick.
Yes.
But You're Not Alone has him in his white outfit with a microphone in his pants.
And he's talking about self-help and music being God, basically, and overcoming a
Yeah,
challenge and
and how
adversity.
how partying
Okay,
partying is the way of life.
but what does that mean? What,
Okay,
like,
okay,
how do you
we're gonna get
party?
also analytical.
How does Andrew WK actually party? Like, what does he do at a party?
He put out a cover of an album that was covers of anime intros. I want to say. So I think
Yes.
his definition of party is pretty loose.
He also did a whole album of Gundam specific covers as well.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of, Gundam.
There was also another one I think of, like more anime openings or stuff like that too. Both were like released exclusively in Japan.
Yes,
I think that's kind of
as
cool. That's
well
kind of a
as
fun
the
thing.
Close Calls with Brick Walls for a while.
What was that?
Close Calls with Brick Walls also was Japan exclusive for a while.
So Andrew WK really has a lot of fans in Japan. It seems like a lot of play there.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, we got to talk about the conspiracy a little bit, at least a little bit,
Okay.
because like we don't have to
I'll
go
see what
deep
I can
into it.
dredge out of my memory.
But there's the whole thing about whether or not
So
he's a real person.
yes, and there's a whole narrative with a character or who knows called Steve Mike, and Steve is spelled Steev, and he is part of the reason that in the war of Andrew WK, I should say that Close Calls with Brick Walls was Japan exclusive, and he was apparently like an old producer, and then like the whole and he's when Andrew WK does live performances occasionally, people think that he's raced with somebody different who has like tattoos in the same place or similar enough places, but like slightly off and different. He's changed body shape times apparently too.
Okay.
So there's like this whole back and forth: is he a character, is he uh has the mantle been passed down, that sort of thing, from what I understand.
And you have all of that. And then you have also like the real life side of the story of like he had a wife for a long time, they divorced. He's now getting married to Kat
Hmm.
Dennings.
Yeah.
And like, my introduction to Andy WK, like I had heard of him, but really the first time I really paid attention to him was like he did the Bethesda E3 press conference, I want to say in like 2018.
Rage 2.
Yeah. And so that was the first time I like laid eyes on Andrew WK and like really understood who he was as like a person a little bit.
Do you want to know the first place I laid eyes on him?
Destroy, build, destroy.
Cartoon Network's Destroy, Build, Destroy.
Yes, his own show in which they
Yeah,
blew up shit, built shit, blew up shit.
basically. Yeah, they destroyed like a car, and then they had to build something out of the car, and then they got to destroy the loser's car.
Oh, that's sick. I like that.
Yeah, it was actually a really cool concept, and I think it would work better if it was like adults as opposed to children.
Yeah, I can see that, like a jackass almost kind of thing.
Yeah,
Now,
like Jackass meets Shop Boys.
I gotta bring up my thing now, in that I used to have a coworker who would she would sometimes teach a music class, and one day we're at work at my job, and she comes up to me and she's like, "Hey, I want to ask you something. Um, in my music class, I have this kid, and they said that their dad or whatever was this guy named Andrew WK. Do you know who he is?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I've heard of him." And he's like, "Yeah, I guess I just have his kid in my class." I'm like, "Oh, that's interesting."
That is wild.
And I guess like now that I think there's a degree of wanting to live in privacy and all that, and that's cool. I respect that, but it's like kind of hearing this idea that he's like a fake person, perhaps, maybe, but then being like, oh, I kind of know somebody who kind of knows the person who's supposed to be his child, and it's like, oh, interesting, okay. A random real life connection
Definitely.
versus like this whole internet conspiracy. It's like I guess both could be true, but
Who
Like
knows?
I feel like there's like a lot. There's enough of like realness to, like he's out there as like a host. He's out there as like a presenter a lot of the time. Like if there's like a body double
Yeah,
thing, maybe that's more of a for a concert thing.
he
If he's
he's
sick,
mostly kind of abandoned the shtick. Like it hasn't been referenced in a while.
Steve Mike thing, or
Um, yeah, the whole Steve Mike thing, and people think he hasn't changed in a while. And like a lot of the early recitings were at his earliest, from what I'm remembering.
and like there could be reasons why that was a thing if it really happened. Like whether that's obligations or negative things or whatever.
Yeah, and another part of the lore now that I'm remembering, the album 55 Cadillac is not a great album. It's instrumental and it's like just him hitting random keys for the most part. It was thought to be put out as like punishment from Steve Mike, like it was blackmail or something in a way,
So this
if
is
I'm
really his
remembering
first
correctly.
album
There's a
since
lot to the story.
this is like his first album in a long time. Then like first real album.
Yes.
And I'm gonna say I don't think I Get Wet or the one that came after that was quite like this, The Wolf or whatever.
Um, The Wolf was 2003.
Right, but I'm gonna say I don't think they were quite
Close
like this
Calls
album
with the
is.
Wolf. No, they weren't.
Is this
The
album's
Wolf
weird.
and Close Calls. Yeah, it's like he's pretending the Wolf and Close Calls don't exist, and kind of just riffing off of I Get Wet.
Oh, is that really okay? This is just kind of continuing from I Get
That
Wet.
that it, yeah, it's gives off a lot of I Get Wet vibes. But yeah, Andrew WK is an interesting figure. There's a lot of mysticism surrounding him, and he's got this persona, and his uniform. Like I don't think I've seen him in a performance or an appearance where he's not wearing his white T-shirt and pants.
Fair enough. I gotta wonder though. Is there like a cult persona happening here a little bit?
Maybe.
Like I don't
What?
know. I always feel weird about people
Maybe.
that are like self-styled motivational speakers.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Like I'm listening to what he's saying, and I don't think he's necessarily wrong. Like his advice and his what he's saying are not inherently untrue or bad things or like misleading in some way. Like I think he tries to be inspirational and helpful, right? But in service of
Hmm.
what? Like he just wants to party and help people and have everyone live a good life. That's fantastic. But what gives him the confidence beyond just embracing everything and just letting it just happen? Like I don't know. I never quite know.
Yeah, I'm looking at his other albums, and now that you mentioned the cult, I think you might be right because his last album was called God is Partying,
Like I was
so
looking
maybe
at
he sees himself as for the god of partying.
looking at this album to see what kind of like religiousness was being brought into it. Is at first I'm like, is this secretly a Christian artist kind of situation?
I
Oh,
don't think so.
I don't think so either. Now he does reference God at least once or twice on this album, but more in like an
Yeah,
esoteric sense of like comparing music to like a god-like thing or like the glorious light of God, whatever the line is. In a way, kind of this idea that music itself is the deity to worship and reign,
yeah,
which is an interesting, I think, statement or like idea to put out there, and like that has something to it that I'm not like totally against, at least conceptually, of just like exploring music and things like that as like things you can feel a lot of things about in worship. But even then, talking about worship or like fanaticism, that definitely gets to a place where, is it healthy? Is it good for you? All that stuff. And then again, it goes back into like the cult stuff that I'm thinking about. There's a
who
certain
knows?
magnetism to
Maybe,
him, right?
yeah, maybe Andrew WK is the next L. Ron Hubbard.
But I think he'd be too laid back and too focused on partying, whatever that really means, to do
Yeah,
something as nefarious as all that. But then it's like that. That makes me think that this is persona, and that he might be a more down to earth person when he's with like his fiance or something like that. Like
I'm sure he
I
is.
can't imagine like your partner being like this 24/7, wanting to be with them.
Yeah. If he's like
And
this, I could see why his first wife left him.
yeah, and she was like a hype woman for him and stuff. She was out there, working with him and like tours and stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different little crinkles in this that I'm like, is there something to this? Is there not? Like, you talk about the whole Steve Mike thing, kind of creating this whole 15-year gap between albums, kind of, or how some of
Yeah.
them were only released in Japan at that same time. Like, there's just a lot of weird aspects that it's like, there's something going on here, but I can't quite place it all.
Yeah, I feel like we're definitely going to have to delve more into the lore of Andrew WK. I would have done more research, but I started a new dishwasher and it's been kicking my ass.
Fair enough. And you're not alone. There are many people that have started as a dishwasher this week, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
Unknown Andrew WK album.
It's should we talk a little bit about the album now? Because we've kind of just talked about
Yeah.
mysticism and of the man.
This is like weird
This is a
anthem.
pretty solid album.
Yeah, it's solid. There's some really good instrumentation. It's really positive.
Yeah, I haven't looked into his studio, his session musicians or songwriters, if he uses them, but I'm sure they are some of the best.
He has some live band members that he's had around for a while. Um, most of them seem to be working in this time, so they were all on this album theoretically. Yeah, Eric Payne,
Theoretically.
Greg Roberts, Dave Pino, Amanda Lepre, and Clark Kegley. And this kind of led to my question I was asking in our chat, like, if we were to really like write down all these people's names and like compare them to all the other artists we've covered and like their backup session musicians and background musicians, what would we find?
Yeah, that would be an interesting web.
Yeah, I like how many of them would be fake, how many of them would be the same person, how many of them would just kind of go all over the place.
Yeah.
Looking at other things here, like again, kind of going off topic of the album itself, but like he's done a thing with Nardwar and his band. He's been on Welcome to Night Vale. Dude fucking gets
Yeah, I
around.
forgot about that. It's been a minute. Uh, he appeared at a MLP fan convention and then announced a motivational seminar on how to party like Pinkie Pie based on one of the show's lead characters, Pinkie Pie. Oh my god, I just read that off Wikipedia.
Yes.
That's incredible.
But yes, you're not alone. There's songs here. There's like 16 songs here.
Yeah.
And 3 of them are like the motivational speaking stuff. Kind of just him going over his philosophy on things and kind of his general thoughts about partying and living through terrible times and embracing them and moving forward.
Yeah.
Things that I think could appeal to somebody who is feeling down and in need of guidance. But again, he does this thing that's tantalizing where he describes the benefits and the fantasticness that he feels and embracing the anxiety of life in a sense and, harnessing that to propel him in a way and kind of putting it all through the lens of partying. But you'll notice, even despite having songs called like the party mindset, the party never dies, he doesn't talk about what he literally does at a party or what it means to
Yeah.
really party all the time.
I I think that's intentional.
Right. It's a thing that's meant to kind of ensnare you and make you curious. And if you are, say,
I
young and impressionable and in need of guidance, you start to go down the rabbit hole.
I think they I think the aim was to make partying seem like this inclusive thing where anybody can do it. Partying is your own definition.
And I can appreciate that. That's a fantastic view to have. But I can also imagine someone who's more awkward, like a teenager who's just not super social, doesn't really fit in super well, listening to this, and then trying to go to a party, right?
Yeah.
Trying to embrace it and go with it and do all that stuff, but like, it doesn't answer the question, what do you physically do to party?
You just got to party hard and party all the time.
But there's either a huge frustration I feel like that kid's gonna feel, or a huge, like, I need to discover everything. I need to keep going. And like Total Freedom's a song that kind of goes over the whole everyone's accepting of each other, everyone's just partying, everyone's just no one cares if you're fat or rich or poor or skinny or whatever. And that's again a fantastic mindset to have. That's some great sentiment there.
Yeah. I'm looking at Andrew WK's past works to see if he has any instructions on how to party, and I'm checking Party Hard, and it is the closest thing. Let's see here. You work all night, and when you work, you don't feel all right, and when things stop feeling all right, and everything is all right, because we will never listen to your rules. No, we will never do what others do. No, do what we want, and we get it from you. Do what we like, and we like what we do. So let's get a party going. Now it's time to party, and we'll party hard. Let's get a party going. When it's time to party, we will always party hard. So no instructions,
So Trix.
except maybe some minor insubordination.
Yeah. But Trix. Let's say you're going to a party.
Yes.
What are you typically doing at a party? What are you specifically doing at a party?
Uh, Sitting in the corner petting a cat.
Let's say you have really close friends and that this is a party you really want to go to. Does that
Oh,
change
I'll
anything?
talk to people. Yeah, I'll talk to people. Have a couple drinks if there's music playing. Dance.
How do you dance?
Depends on the music.
You going hard? Are you just kind of shuffling around?
Depends on how much alcohol has been consumed.
And I would say for myself, it kind of also depends. Am I like this a huge party with a bunch of people? Am I drunk? Am I getting to that point where my anxiety has calmed down a bit so I can kind of go and be social? And I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing to party? Am I dancing? Not really, kind of. Maybe. I can be forced to, but am I just like having a good time talking to people and just feeling the vibes? I suppose. But I would never call that
I
partying
I
hard.
love the idea. I love the idea of being forced to party against your own will.
I mean, it's more saying I would dance, kind of being forced to a little bit. But even then,
Yeah.
none of that's partying hard, right? When you say party hard, the most I can think of is like really bopping to the music, really fucking just throwing yourself out there, throwing your body just around, tossing that ass in a circle. Either that or doing hard drugs. And I don't think that's quite what he means.
Both. They aren't mutually exclusive.
And I know that he's probably talking in a more general esoteric sense in a way of just, it's a mindset. It's just whatever you make it out to be, man.
Mm-hmm.
If you enjoy it, that's your kind of partying. I can imagine that being an explanation. But it's kind of like the faith
Partying
question.
lame.
How do you believe in religion, right? You just gotta believe.
Yes. You
Like
just do.
how? You just gotta do. You gotta have faith. How do you party?
There is no how. There is no try. Do or do not. There's no try. Whatever the Yoda quote
The Yoda
is.
quote, yes. So this is like I
But
know Bits would make a comment about loving how this is like brought me to some existential crisis about partying, but it's deeper than that. But finish your sentence.
I was just going to say I was browsing his Wikipedia page, and I found out that he played bass on a trans woman's folk album.
Oh yeah,
So I'm going to have to listen to that at some point.
that's really cool. That's awesome.
Yes,
All inclusive Andrew WK as someone that we love.
indeed. It's like an old drag queen, uh, Baby D.
Oh yeah, baby D got it.
This was in 2008. So
But
yeah, that'll be an interesting listen.
Yeah, he's been in a handful of shows and movies and has, played himself a lot of the time. He was in Backyard Wrestling 2, There Goes the Neighborhood, as himself, for example.
Yeah, he kind of
And,
pops up in a lot of places. Like as mentioned before, he's a weird troll in the sewers in Rage 2.
people just kind of accept it. And it's like, oh, there's Andrew WK. He parties. But there's a
Andrew
mystique to
WK
that.
is the only one of us who got to put a partying down as his job description.
Yes, but as an employer, I would ask him, what does it mean?
But he's self-employed.
Is this a thing where he's also like persuasive and winning people over, and that's why he also appears in so many places?
He's got that charisma stat decked.
Is that why he's able to do like more than one album of covers of songs that are from Japan?
Yeah.
And God is partying again. You gotta ask: is there a religious undertone to that also,
Yeah.
or is that
Has
just
Andrew WK started a cult?
or is it just using Christian iconography to further your own kind of like cult mindset thing of just listen to me, I party, you should party too.
You should party hard.
Whatever you think is partying hard, you gotta party hard. And he's always partying.
Yes.
That's kind of his thing, is that wherever he's going, he's partying. But it's like, are you just
He's
doing a
partying
jig
at
in
the D&D.
place? Are you fucking dancing in a square wherever you go? You fucking down for anything,
He
whatever
always
room you
has a
enter
red
into?
solo cup.
What?
He has a red solo cup full of stale beer on him at all times.
Not a Red Bull. I don't know.
Que no los dos.
Maybe I'm focusing too much on the literal and trying to squeeze a rock to get some water in a sense. But I think these are perfectly valid questions to
Yeah.
ask. I'm just asking questions, as the term goes.
As an aside, there is a there's a connection between Anoni and Andrew WK.
Oni and Andrew WK?
Anoni.
What is the connection?
Anoni has worked with Baby D,
Ah, interesting.
and they're friends. So
That makes sense.
this is interesting. Okay, I will have to read this later.
But I feel like my questions about Andrew WK ultimately get in the way of me enjoying Andrew WK more. Like, I don't get the
Yeah,
sense that he's a bad dude necessarily, but I have several questions.
and I'm sure he would give you weird answers that don't make sense.
And he's kind of pretty.
Is he kind of a prototype? Is he kind of a prototype persona of the himbo energy?
No,
Uh,
he is more akin. Like he has a little bit of that, but he's more akin. What's that? What was that guy? Do you know that guy that was like a fucking bodybuilder that like claimed he wasn't doing steroids, but then was totally caught doing steroids and shit and selling like a bunch of like unproven shit to
Liver
people?
King?
Yeah, the Liver King. I feel like Andrew WK is a weird prototype of that kind of persona. Like not one for one
Eh,
politically or something like that, but in the sense of like,
yeah,
I am this guy, you should listen to me. Why? Well, because I party, or because I'm fucking ripped, or because I do this, or because I do that. Anyway, listen to what I have to say. But he
yeah,
couches
that's
it
fair.
in approachable music. So it's not like he has a manifesto. It's not like he has written books, so I can't say that. But
Yes, he's done a lot.
and I feel like saying all this, he would still be someone that was down with a lot of weird shit.
Yeah,
I think he would be down to party with the furries, for example.
we already know he's down to party with the brownies.
So there's a part of it that's like he really means it, but
Yeah,
there's something about it. I'm like, I want to know more, and I know I will never know more unless he's willing to open up.
yeah, we do need to know more.
See, after the release of his last album, he delayed all his upcoming shows, deleted his website and social media pages.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
You had any updates on that?
I don't I don't know. I haven't really looked into it.
Let's see. Yeah, they announced their engagement on Instagram, so there's that.
Yeah.
You know, she's been a fan of NGWK since at least 2014. That's what Kat Denning's Facebook page says. How how do you how do you go from being a fan to being like the one? I wonder how that turns out.
Yeah, that's always a little weird.
Because she also, I guess, dated Josh Groban at one point. Interesting.
Definitely.
I don't know. Do you is there much else you want to cover about Andrew WK at this point before we get to the next one, whenever that is?
I don't think so. I
There's
think we've covered it.
more questions than answers. That's kind of what we came down to.
More questions than answers. I will do my research. I have a 4-day weekend. I will take notes.
And I will, you know, if you bring him up again on the show, I will definitely try to do more research on my own. No promises, but I don't think I'll be getting the answers I want either.
Yep.
Um, yeah, the songs are good. They're fine. Some of them are nice and have good instrumentation. If I were to pick some, I think my favorites would be something like, I think Total Freedom is really good. I think a song like Break the Curse could have that cathartic moment that Total Freedom has, and the way he belts out those lyrics. I think Music is Worth Living For,
Yeah.
despite being cheesy as fuck, is also kind of fun. But I think
Music
you.
isn't worth living for. It is great.
But I mean, my least favorite's probably somewhere around "Give Up on You" or "Keep Going." Or maybe the devil's on your side, because having the devil being on your side, it kind of goes back into that kind of religious argument of like, is this related to religion at all? Is it not? Is it just using it as a easy like catch-all discussion topic or not or whatever?
Is it God or is it gay?
I mean, sorry, what was that?
Is it God or is it gay?
Yes, the famous question. Your favorites, least favorites?
Favorites for me. Music is worth living for. The Party Never Dies is great, and The Devil's on Your Side. And I'm just gonna throw down that my least favorites are the spoken word tracks.
Yeah, I guess those would be my least favorite in a sense too. I just didn't really count those because that I feel like that's not talking about the main part of the album, but I get it.
That's fair.
So, rankings then.
Rankings.
You can go first if you'd
You
like.
want me to go first? Okay. Sure. Number 4 is going to be Hot Mulligan. Just wasn't feeling it this week. Number 3, Andrew WK. It's a great album. Number 2, Mars Volta. And number 1, Spanish Love Songs.
I'm gonna agree with Hot Mulligan at 4 and Andrew WK at 3. But I'm gonna put Spanish Love Songs at 2 and Mars Volta at number 1 because Amputecture is just a fucking fantastic album.
Fair enough.
Alright. Now, next week we're gonna have something special for you. I'm not gonna fully reveal what it is, but I like to remain optimistic. That being said, we're gonna plan for the week after.
That we are.
I'll just go first because
Should
now
we
that
start
it's
with Ritz?
we have another 2 week break basically, or another 2 weeks to before our next regular episode. So I thought, let's we're gonna wrap up this Radiohead Muse thing for the rest of the year pretty quickly here. I have 2 more of these planned. This is being one of them. We're gonna dive into live albums again with Radiohead's "I Might Be Wrong" live recordings. The only live album they've really put out, aside from like a bunch of concert DVDs. And then for Muse, we're going to do their live album Harp, their first full live album. That's Harp, and
All
I Might
right.
Be Wrong, live recordings.
Sounds good.
And you played a game this week,
What
Trix.
I did play a game. I had a list of 10 EPs I wanted to cover, and I figured I would make a little fun game, or torture experiment, depending how it went. where I would make them pick the amount of EPs they did. I was going to have them each pick a number between 1 and 10, and I was going to take the median number. Those numbers happen to be 3 and 8. So we're going to be covering 6 EPs.
Rounding up.
And none of these have any rhyme or reason to them. I've just wanted to cover them for a while.
Okay. So, let's make this fun.
We are going to
lay it on me in a way that's interesting. Well, what is the most relevant one to what we've talked about this week?
What talked about this week? None of them.
All right.
Maybe actually, Foreign National EP. We're gonna do their self-titled EP, Foreign National. They have a song on it called Life Tourist, and I guess that kind of applies to some of the Andrew WK stuff we were talking about. But they are an Australian band I've been wanting to cover for a while, specifically this EP.
Okay.
Then, along that same kind of indie pop route, we're going to do Hippocampus's new EP, Wasteland.
Campus, always
Then to pivot into more punk rock territories, we're going to be doing Pups, This Place Sucks Ass, and Mac Krolls, For Some Other Reasons, with Fair Warning and the other song on it. It's got a... They did not name the EP well, but it is Mike Kroll and Mac McCona, I believe. I don't think that's his name. I'm messing it up. But of Superchunk, the guitarist for Superchunk, they collabed on a couple songs.
Oh, for some other reasons?
For some other reason, it's like a split. It's on Mike Kroll, his page.
4.
And then, because fuck it, we're doing 2 doom metal EPs.
Okay.
Electric Wizard's Legalized Drugs and Murder, and Sleep's The Clarity, which is only a single, but it's 9 minutes long, and we've covered EPs shorter than it.
These are the Sleep's The Clarity?
Yes.
Technically a single, but we've done EP shorter. All right. And then
It's 9 minutes.
Ritalin has chosen a couple things. Dear Seattle's self-titled EP, and Fiddlehead's new record. What is that called? Let's see. Going to Spotify again, and we'll get an answer, hopefully. I'm guessing that album is Death Is Nothing to Us. Just came out on the 18th.
We will...
Yes. Death Is Nothing to Us by
probably...
Fiddlehead. So, in total, that makes it Radiohead's I Might Be Wrong live recordings, which, for in all fairness, sometimes it's called an album, sometimes it's called an EP. For its length. We got Muse's Harp. Ritz has chosen Dear Seattle's self-titled EP, as well as Fiddlehead's Death Is Nothing to Us. And Trix has chosen a ton of EPs. Foreign Nationals self-titled. Hippocampus's Wasteland. Pups, This Place Sucks Ass. Mac Kroll's For Some Other Reason, split of sorts. Electric Wizard's Legalized Drugs and Murder. Did I get that right? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you now.
The album was called Legalized Drugs and Murder.
Yes.
And then lastly, Sleep's The Clarity.
Yes.
Well, that'll do it for us. My name is Dominic. You can catch me online at DACICHOCKI. Still on what I'm going to call Twitter. Dominic Chikoki on YouTube if you must. And also on the Games My Mom Found podcast every now and then. We're going to be doing more Kingdom Hearts. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned.
I have been Trix. You can catch on Twitter, Hive, Blue Sky, everything. You can find all of us on Twitter and Blue Sky. Check out our website, our clock, that sort of thing. I'm
Dissonant
going to
Waves dot
go eat
space.
2 pounds of TikTok and pass out. The what?
Dissonant Waves dot space is our website.
Oh yes, there's that space. And now that we have covered everything, I'm going to go eat 2 pounds of tater tots and pass out.
Yep, the rest of the stuff is in the description below. Have a wonderful time, everybody.
Bye, everyone.